Hey guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It's 9 o'clock and it's time for another video. And today I'm going to be talking to you about kid shows. Now, I don't do that many videos on kid shows on this channel. I do them ever so often. But people keep asking me to do more videos on how to run a kid show and the correct way to do a kid show. And, you know, I've done kid shows for years. I've ran kid shows pretty much my entire career in Magic. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. I love doing kid shows. I know there's a lot of magicians out there that turn their nose up at kids entertainers, and they say that kids entertainers aren't real magicians. And to those people, I say that's absolute rubbish. If you're going to be a kids entertainer, a lot of kids entertainers are better than any close-up magician I've met. Because here's the thing, close-up magicians can delude themselves into thinking that they're good, because a lot of the time when you go to events, guests will be polite. Even if they don't like your magic, they will act nice because that's what adults do, right? That's not the case with kids. They have no filter. If they don't like what you do, they will literally just stand up or walk off, or they will tell you that they don't like it. So you have to be very, very good. And I think there's a lot of transferable skills when you learn how to do a kid show. I think there's a lot of skills that you can transfer from kid shows to performing close-up or on stage. I really do. And I did a video on this channel a little while ago, probably about a year ago now. It was all about how to run the most awesome kids party ever. And if you just search on YouTube, how to run an awesome kids party, it'll come up. You can go watch that. It was a breakdown of one of my kids shows, what I do, why I do it. I went through really important things like look, no, see, and a whole bunch of stuff. But this video is a little bit different. This video is all about how to make your kids show relevant, because I see a lot of kids entertainers, and a lot of kids entertainers are kind of stuck in the 1990s. They're stuck in the early 2000s. And the idea of their kid show is to have really big, colourful props that take up an entire stage. And the whole thing is based around these big, colourful props that nobody can relate to, because nobody knows what they are. Really colourful boxes with doors that open up and side doors that open up, and tricks with handkerchiefs getting pushed into these boxes. And it's fine. You know, I've done magic like that before, but I think these days we're currently in 2022. These days, the modern kids audience, I think they want something that's a little bit more relatable. I don't think it needs to be all about big, colourful boxes that nobody knows what they are, especially older kids, kind of the age sort of 8+. I think they definitely want something more relatable than those big, colourful boxes. And I think that a lot of kids entertainers, not everybody, I'm not pointing fingers at particular entertainers, but I think a lot of kids entertainers, what they do is they hide behind the boxes. They think that if they get themselves the best sound system, and if they get themselves the best colourful boxes and the biggest colourful boxes, then that will make them the best kids entertainer. But in reality, I think that that's not actually the case. I think these days, in 2022, A, the magic needs to be more relatable, so that the kids can immediately relate to it. And B, as well as the magic being more relatable, I think that the magic that you perform has to be something that the parents enjoy as well. Because everybody knows, or anybody who's done kid shows will know, that you've got a room full of kids, you've got a room full of parents at the back of the room. And a lot of the time, those parents will be a distraction to the kids, because they'll all be at the back of the room chatting and talking, and it can distract the kids. And I can't tell you the amount of posts I see on Facebook groups saying, how do I deal with kids? How do I deal with the parents of the kids? They're distracting the children. What can I do to get them to shut up? Can I tell them to shut up at the beginning of the party? So on and so forth. The thing is, if you do magic, if you change the type of magic that you do in your kid show, you can actually get the adults on board. You can turn a kid show into a family show. And you won't have to worry about the parents at the back of the room chatting to each other, because they're watching the show, they're invested in it as well, which makes it a family show. It makes it a really enjoyable experience for everybody that's watching. The other thing that does is if you impress the adults, there's more chance of you getting a future booking from another party. I'm not saying that's the only thing that you need to consider, but the bottom line is it's the parents at the back of the room that are paying for the parties. And if they see an act that their child's enjoying, but they've enjoyed it as well, and all the other parents in the room have enjoyed it, they're going to gravitate towards that act, right? It's just going to happen. So with that all being said, with all that in mind, this video is going to be all about different ways that you can make your show more relatable to children. It's going to be about how you can ditch the colourful boxes and put tricks in your show that maybe aren't as big and aren't as grandiose, but they still work and they still get a great reaction from the children. So with that being said, let's go for it. Okay, so the first thing that I would say to make the show more relatable to kids is to try and think very carefully about what the theme of the trick is. And I'm going to give you a perfect example of this, right? And the perfect example is, let's say you're doing a trick with two handkerchiefs, and one's a red handkerchief and one's a blue handkerchief, right? If you turn around to the kids and you say, I'm going to show you a trick with two handkerchiefs, the kids don't care about handkerchiefs. They're not invested in handkerchiefs at all. It doesn't matter how big your handkerchiefs are. It doesn't matter how much you wave them around, and it doesn't matter how colourful they are. They don't really care less about the handkerchiefs that you're using. But if you make the trick, or the prop that you're using in this case more relatable to what the kids are into, then all of a sudden they're going to buy into the trick a lot more. So, for example, if you're performing for younger children, there's a very good chance that they like Paw Patrol, right? And if they like Paw Patrol, you could change the premise of the trick immediately. So, for example, you could say, right, I've got two handkerchiefs here, red and blue, but these aren't going to represent handkerchiefs. Guys, who here likes Paw Patrol? Put your hand in the air if you like Paw Patrol. Brilliant. Well, do you know which pup wears blue? Chase, very good. And do you know which pup wears red? Marshall, very good. So this is going to be Chase, and this is going to be Marshall, and they're going to have a race. Now, let me ask you a question, kids. Who do you think would win in a race, Chase or Marshall? Shout out for me, let me know. And now you're into a trick, but now the kids can relate to it more because you've made it not about handkerchiefs and you've made it about something that they are personally interested in. And on that subject, when you take a booking for your kids' show, it's always a good idea to ask the client if their child has any interests that you could incorporate into the show, because it is very easy to theme tricks in order to fit a theme. You don't have to buy a Paw Patrol themed trick or a character suit in order to walk around in. You can change the theme of the trick just by changing the presentation ever so slightly. So rather than talking about two handkerchiefs, we're changing the premise in this case to Paw Patrol. So ask the question when you take the booking if there's anything that the kids are into, and think about how you can take those generic tricks that use props that the kids aren't into and actually make it more interesting for them by incorporating their favourite things. The second point, and it kind of expands on the first point a little bit, is make sure that you're up on what the kids are into. There's a lot of kids entertainers out there, myself included, to be honest, that are getting on a little bit, and maybe their kids have got older. Like Ryland's 10 now. He's not into the same sort of stuff than a kid that's 4. When he was like younger, I used to have my finger on the pulse of everything that aged kid would be into. Now, not so much, but I still keep on top of it a little bit. Keep on top of what the kids are into. Keep on top of the trends. If there's a new dance or there's a new film or there's a new cartoon that they're into, then make sure that you're aware of that and you can reference it. It doesn't have to have a whole trick built around it. You can reference that in the show to make the whole show more relatable. So if the kids are into superheroes, for example, and you know that there's a new Marvel film come out, it doesn't matter whether they've watched it or not, they're going to know about it because everyone at school is going to be talking about it, and you can go, hey, who here likes the Avengers? Who here is excited about the new Avengers film, or whatever it may be? Sometimes it's about just dropping stuff in and making it obvious to the kids that you're into the same sort of thing that they're into. Okay, the next point is, it doesn't matter how big the prop is. Sometimes you can use smaller props and it will have a bigger impact if it's something that kids are more able to relate to. And I'll give you an example. One of the reasons why colouring in routines, where the kids colour in by magic, many different versions of this, right? One of the reasons that they have been so popular over the years is because kids love colouring in. Kids of all ages love colouring in. Ryland's 10, he loves colouring in. Thea is 7, she loves colouring in. When they were 3 and 4, they loved colouring in. Kids love colouring in. So if you do a trick and the premise is colouring in, and hey, who here likes colouring in? Who here colours in on, at home or whatever it may be? Well, all of a sudden now, you're grabbing their attention. It's like the first point that I made. You're presenting something to them that they can relate to, and they're more interested in it. So it doesn't have to be a colouring routine, although that's a perfect example. But think about tricks that you can do that instantly make it relatable to the kids that are watching. Because there's certain tricks that are, there's certain tricks that aren't. I can think of a million tricks without, really going too specific. I'm thinking of a million tricks where there's nothing relatable about it at all. So you really have a choice there. You either try to work out a way to make it relatable, or you come up with a really interesting presentation for it, like we talked about before. But one of the best ways is to not even use kids' props at all. And that's the point that we're going to get to next. Okay, so the next point that I'm going to make, and this is a really important point, and probably the biggest point, and the reason this whole video came about, which is try to move away from the standard, the classic kids show props, and think about other tricks that you can do to make, and that are just as impressive for the children, but they don't involve big boxes or the more traditional kids show props. Because let's be honest, most kids entertainers will do something similar. They'll have the big props with this and that and the other going on. And if you can do something that's a little bit, I want to say organic, I don't know if that's the right word, but if you can do something that's a little bit more organic that the kids can relate to more, that will also impress the adults, well, that's a big win as far as I'm concerned. So I'm going to give you a few examples now of tricks that I think fit that, to give you a few ideas. There's a million ideas out there, but I'm going to give you a few. Okay, so the first example I'm going to give you is the self-tying shoelaces. Now, the self-tying shoelaces have been around for years. I remember Dynamo, when he was very, very young, doing this on TV. If you don't know what this trick is, you walk out and your shoelaces are untied. And you say, hey, my shoelaces are untied, don't worry. And you just shake your shoe, and now immediately the shoes are tied. Now, this is a perfect example of a great opening trick that kids can relate to. Let me explain why. Most kids are either learning how to tie their shoes, or they've learned how to tie their shoes, but it's something that they can all relate to regardless of age, right? And also it's something that frustrates kids when they first start to learn it. It's something that's very difficult to do, and something they have to spend a long time doing, and they get a real sense of achievement when they've actually tied those shoelaces. Now, if you could actually do magic, if you could really do magic and you were a kid, you would probably take the mundane tasks that you don't like doing and you would make them happen magically. And a perfect example of that would be shoelaces. If a kid is struggling to learn how to tie their shoelaces and you told them that you could teach them a magic spell, so all they'd have to do was shake their foot and the shoelaces would suddenly tie, well, now that's something that probably every kid in the world would do immediately. So with that being said, doing the self-tying shoelaces, which is a really cheap trick, it's like 20 bucks from Penguin or something like that. This makes the perfect opening trick. Imagine, and this is an opening trick that I do an awful lot as well. Imagine walking out on stage. Bearing in mind that when you do a kids show, a lot of the time, most of the time, the kids are sitting down on the floor watching you, so they can see your feet, right? Imagine walking out on stage and introducing yourself. Hi, my name's Craig. I'm the magician. I'm going to do some magic for you today. It's not going to take very long at all before somebody turns around to you and says, your shoes untied, because the kids can see your shoes. They know that your shoes shouldn't be untied. Hey, your shoes are untied. Now, if they don't say something, which they will, but if they don't say something, you can say, oh, hang on a minute. I've just noticed my shoes untied. Why didn't you guys tell me that my shoes weren't untied? Oh, that's so embarrassing. And then you can ask a question, because the thing about kid shows is the most important thing with a kid show is making it interactive. I have a rule of thumb where every 3 or 4 seconds there should be something happening in the kid show. Now that could be making them laugh, it could be something magical happening, it could be some slapstick, whatever it is. Every 3 or 4 seconds there should be something to engage the children in the audience. That's how you keep the audience's attention, or the kids' attention, right? And one way of doing that is asking lots of questions. So when you notice that your shoes are untied, you can say, well, didn't anybody, who here really hates it when your shoes are untied and you're walking down the street and your mum and dad say, your shoes are untied and you have to stop to tie your shoes? How annoying is that? Isn't that the most annoying thing in the world? Luckily, I'm a magician and I can tie my shoes by magic. Who'd like to see that? You would? Okay, let me teach you how to do it. All you have to do is take your shoe and give it a shake. Watch this. And you just shake your shoe and all of a sudden the shoelace ties on your shoe, and you show that to the audience, and then you just act like nothing's important's happened. And you go, anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, so I'm here to do a magic show. I guarantee you that if you do this for the rest of the party, you're going to see kids walking around shaking their feet and trying to tie their shoes by magic when their shoelaces come untied. It is incredible. I've had people ring up my company and want to book and they say, hey, are you the company where the people, shake their feet and the shoes tie? Honestly, it's not a big prop. It's not a big expensive thing with handkerchiefs to go in and so on and so forth. It's literally something that you can set up that takes no space in your case, but it is one of the strongest things that you can do. It really is, because it's something that's relatable to the children. They all know about tying shoelaces and how difficult it is to tie shoelaces. It's something that they all wish they could do. And the adults that are watching this trick, they're blown away as well. They probably haven't seen a trick like this at a kid show before. And now all of a sudden it puts you in a completely different league. And that's what you want to do when you're going out and doing kid shows. You want to put yourself in a different league. Parents are used to seeing a million kids entertainers with lots of big fancy boxes doing very, very similar tricks to the ones that the other ones do. But if you could do something where it doesn't look like you've done anything, you've just walked out on stage and you've grabbed the kids' attention just by shaking a foot, well, all of a sudden you're in a different level. So that's an example of a trick that you can do that's not big and flashy, that can really help you relate to the kids. Let's talk about another one. Okay, so Ryland does kid shows, and he's done them for a long time, and he loves doing kid shows. And one of the tricks that he does in his kid show as an opener, and it's another example, there's a trick that's come out recently, and it's a color changing cap. We're going to be reviewing it on the review show at some point, but Ryland's been doing it for a while. I think it's by a guy called Blank. And the whole idea is it's a black hat, right? And when you shake the black hat, it just turns red, and then you can put it back on your head. Now, Ryland wears caps an awful lot. He likes wearing caps. So when he does a kids show, this is the opener to his show. So what he does is he walks out on stage and he's wearing this cap and he goes, hi, my name's Ryland. I am the magician. Who likes magic? Put your hand in your hair if you like magic. And then he just stops and he goes, who likes my cap? Do you like my cap? Got it new last week. Who likes it? Put your hand in your hair if you like it. It's great, isn't it? It's great. It's black, because black's my favorite color. Who here likes black? Put your hand in your hair if you like black. I tell you what, I want to know what your favorite color is. I'm going to count to 3, and I want you guys to shout out your favorite color as loud as you can. 1, 2, 3. And every kid shouts out their favorite color, and he just pretends that he can hear red. He goes, red. Who said red? Which is a nice little thing. If you want to force a color or something like that to a room full of kids, just get them all to shout out. They'll all shout random colors, and just say who said, and say your favorite force, the color you're wanting to force, and they'll all say, yeah, that was me, that was me, that was me. I think I heard red more than anyone else. Who said red? Yeah, you did, you did, you did, you did, you did, you. Oh, you as well. Oh, it looks like most people said red. You guys really like red? Okay, if you really like red, just for you guys as I'm doing this show, I won't wear a black cap, I'll wear a red cap. Watch. Shakes the cap. It turns red. He puts it back on the head and he goes, right, anyway, like I said, my name's Ryland. I'm the kid magician. I'm here to do some magic for you guys. Now, all of a sudden, it's exactly the same as the shoelace trick, right? Now what you have is you have this trick where you've taken a cap and you've just changed the color to apparently a freely named color. But again, it's something that kids can relate to. A lot of kids wear baseball caps. They like baseball caps. And, you know, I mentioned before how colors are really a cool thing to use around kids. But having the ability to change the color of your cap, you tell me, if you said to any kid, hey, you could take that cap that you're wearing right now and shake it and make it change color. Would you like to do that? Oh, yeah. It's something that a kid could imagine themselves doing. It's a prop that a kid has. They can relate to that prop. It's not like a big box that looks like nothing on God's green earth. They all have caps, and, you know, they can imagine themselves doing it. And again, I've been to shows with Ryland and I've watched him, and then afterwards I've seen the kids that are wearing caps just shake these caps and try to change them. They can't do that with like a dye box. You can't take a dye box and show the kid a dye box and then have them later on, you know, take their own dye box and pretend they're doing the trick. But something like shoelaces, something like a cap, they can do. It's why it makes it so relatable for kids. It's using objects that they know that they have around the house. With that being said, let me give you another example right now. So another example of a trick that you can do that kids really relate to is spooning around by Axel Hecklau. And every time I talk about spooning around and I say that it can be done in a kid's show, people kind of look at me a little bit strange, but it's so true. Because you see, the thing is, most kids are in the middle of learning about knives and forks and cutting up their food and when to use a knife, when to use a fork, when to use a spoon, all this sort of stuff. It's something that kids, depending on the age, it's something that kids have had to spend a long time learning. And even when they learn how to use a knife and fork, they're mastering how to cut up food and so on and so forth. So, you know, kids spend a lot of time thinking about knives and forks. So you bring out if you bring out a spoon, lost the train of thought there. If you bring out a spoon and you turn it into a fork, well, all of a sudden, everybody's going to be buying into what you're doing there. Every single person is going to be buying into what you're doing because they immediately recognize the spoon. They know what a spoon is. And when you turn it into a fork, they know what a fork is. So then it's just about giving it an interesting and engaging presentation. And the way I do it is at the beginning of my show, I have the spoon in my pocket set up. And I say, who here would like to see my brand new magic wand? I've got a brand new magic wand. I've brought it today with me. It's really cool. It looks a little bit different to a normal magic wand, but it's amazing. Let me show you. Here's my magic wand. And I pull out the spoon, and instantly the kids are laughing. You know, you don't have to try hard. You hold a spoon and you tell them it's a magic wand. They're going to find that hilarious. Now you can argue back with them. No, it is a magic wand. Honestly, it really is. It's a magic wand. You can do magic with it. And then I go through some gags. Look, I'm going to move with the power of my mind and have the spoon just drop down and all of this stuff. And then I say that I'm going to bend it with the power of my mind. And I come up here and I go bend, 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 and it doesn't bend. I'm like, oh man, why didn't it bend? If it had bent, this would be amazing. And now I bring it back up and now it's just a fork, and it hasn't happened as a magical trick. It hasn't happened with me doing magic to it. It's just kind of happened on the offbeat and I haven't noticed it, which is classic look, no see. And then when I look back at it, I'm like, oh my gosh, see, I told you this was a magic wand. You know, it obviously is. It can look like anything. And then I use that spoon, stroke fork, as my magic wand for the rest of the show. But it's another example of how you can actually take a prop that kids can relate to and you can do something with it, something that no other kids entertainer's doing, and something that kind of makes you stand out from the crowd. Okay, I'm going to give you one more example of a prop that you can use that kids are into. Looking around to see if I've got one, I haven't. I'm going to give you one more example of a prop that kids are into, that you don't see many kids entertainers doing, and that's a Rubiks Cube. Now, obviously, Rubiks Cubes are really popular. As a toy now, they're like ridiculously popular. You bring out a Rubiks Cube, every kid in the audience knows what that Rubiks Cube is, like immediately. So it's a great prop to be able to bring out, right? That's the first thing. But how I use a Rubiks Cube in my show, and how Ryland actually uses a Rubiks Cube in his show as well, is we use it using look, no see. Now, if you don't know what look, no see is, go check out my other video because I go into it in great detail there. But I bring out a Rubiks Cube and I mix it and I say, hey, this Rubik's Cube is mixed, okay? You all know what a Rubik's Cube is. Put your hand in the air if you know what a Rubik's Cube is. Great. I'm going to mix up this Rubik's Cube. Now, this will only work if it's mixed. This trick will not work if it's solved. So it'll only work if it's mixed. And as I bring my hand up here and I look at the audience, the cube solves like that. So then I carry on with my look, no, see. Hey, it'll only work if it's mixed. It won't work if it's solved. Blah, 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 blah. And they're screaming at me, telling me it's solved. And when I look at it, it has solved. I'm like, that's really weird. I'm so sorry. Let me mix that up again. I don't know what happened. Magic stuff just happens to me. There we go. Is that mixed up? Yes, it is. Brilliant. Now, this trick will only work if it's mixed up. It will not work if it's solved. And now the cube's solved again. And the magic, I'm not presenting it as a magic trick. I'm not saying, hey, I'm going to solve this cube. I'm saying to them, I want to show you a trick with a cube, and it's only going to work if it's mixed up. And every single time I look up at that cube, it ends up getting solved, it ends up getting solved, and it ends up getting solved. And it becomes a really annoying thing. And it's one of those things that you can do over and over again. And each time you do it, it gets funnier and funnier and funnier. And in the end, I take the cube and I turn it into a bunch of sweets. That's the end of the routine. And I turn it into a bunch of sweets, which I can then give out. But that's not the important part of what I'm trying to show you here. The important part is the incorporation of the cube and how it's being used. So I'm not like putting a cube in a big, massive box and something that they can't relate to. I'm just picking up something that they're going to have around their house, probably in their bedroom. Everybody knows what a cube is and everybody knows how difficult it is to solve. And it's solving even without me looking at it, seemingly out of my control. So that's another example of a prop that you can use. There's millions of them, and this video could be 5 hours long. But hopefully those examples are something that you can kind of look at and go, yeah, okay, I see where Craig's point is here. I see what he's talking about. I mean, there's a million other examples. And if you want to expand on this, let me know in the comments down below. But with that being said, I want to give you one more point that I think is really important to think about. Okay, so the final point that I want to talk to you about is structuring the show. And what I mean by that is I see so many magicians, and how they perform the show is they have a series of tricks, right? And they go, for my first trick, for my next trick, for my next trick, for my next trick. And all it is, it's a series of tricks. And it's kind of like, right, I'm going to take this prop out. I'm going to do something with this. I'm going to put it away. I'm going to take this prop out. I'm going to do something with it. I'm going to put it away. I'm going to take this prop out. I'm going to do something with it. I'm going to put it away. Which is fine. But I actually prefer to present the magic in my show not as individual tricks, but almost more theatrically. Like I'm just having a conversation with the kids, and as I'm having a conversation, magical stuff happens. So using a couple of examples of what I've just been through, I come out and I say hi to the kids and I'm doing my warm up. Oh, my shoes are untied. Hang on, let me just fix those. Right, okay, right. So before, oh, look, my hat is the wrong color. I'm just going to fix the hat. Right, okay. Oh, by the way, I've got a new magic wand. Would you like to see it? You would. Okay, I'm going to show it you. And you do a trick with a spoon. Now, you're not, then you might, you know, this is a point where you might go, now for my next trick. But you don't. You go, hey, let me, I'd like to teach you a trick, actually. Who here'd like to learn how to do a magic trick? Okay, I'm going to teach you how to do a trick. And I'm not saying at any point, right, okay, now for my next trick, or now I'm going to start the show. It's conversation that takes place over 40 minutes, and the magic happens during the course of the conversation. So it's not like I'm setting up for one particular trick. The trick just happens during the course of the presentation for the whole show. Now, that might not be a style that works for you, but this is a style that works really well for me, and it helps me differentiate myself from other kids' entertainers. So try it. Think about how you can structure your show. And instead of actually launching into the trick and going, right, okay, now for the next trick, I'm going to do this. I need 2 people to help me. I'm going to do a trick now and I need 2 people to help me. Rather than that, think about how you can actually transition. I think that's the key point here. How do you transition from one trick to the other? When trick A ends here and trick B begins, what's the transitional process to get from that trick to that trick? You could just stop that trick and say, thank you very much. And then say, for my next trick, I'm going to need 2 people and I'm going to use this prop. You could do that, but how else can you transition? What can you do to get from there to link it in a very organic way? That's something that's worth thinking about, and it's something that a lot of kids entertainers don't spend the time or effort to actually think about. So there you go. For everybody who wanted another video on kids shows, here it is. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see more videos on kids shows, please let me know. I'd be more than happy to put them together. I love performing for children. I really do. I think that it's one of the most fun type of shows that I do. But now it's over to you. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. You want to see more videos like this? Like the video, subscribe to the channel. And don't forget, if you haven't already joined the NETRIX, please do so. It's www.thenetrix.com. That's www.thenetrix.com. We got a kids show section, which we're massively expanding on in the coming weeks and months, as with the stage section and everything else. So if you want to be a kids entertainer, hey, you might want to look at the NETRIX. I'll be back again tomorrow with another video. Thanks very much for watching. My name's Craig from Magic TV.